All right, guys, it's Rex again here with On the Hill Media. We got the Dawg Walk here. We got Coach V, offensive coordinator slash quarterbacks coach slash he was that man in Nashville. But hey, let's get it again. Here we go. So, Coach V, just talk about coming from Nashville last year. Taking over the offensive coordinator reign. Just sort of talk about that transition that you and your family had to go through as far as just being in Northwest Arkansas.
It was a great experience. Got the opportunity to come up here and work for Coach Dick. I mean, it's been great. And we've loved Northwest Arkansas and couldn't be happier.
Yeah. So now let's talk about our offense. Last year we had Garrett at our QB. The year before that we had Drake. This year we got another young quarterback stud and Hank from coming in from Texas. Just talk about his maturity as far as just being a leader coming in.
Yeah, I mean Hank's been a great player for us so far. One of the things that I like that he really brings is he brings great leadership to the team. He gets along with all the guys. If there's something that he wants done a little bit different, he has great communication with the receivers. And I mean, arm talent, knowledge of the game, that's something that he has that he possesses, but the off the field stuff and those other intangibles are something I think he does a really good job at.
Yeah, and that's something I've been able to be around him a little bit working at the app school and just kind of seeing his demeanor.
Right.
He's quiet, almost stoic, and I feel like I've seen some clips on the internet from him last year, and he delivered it in most of the games that he was in. Just talk about just what you expect from him going into this year being a Fayetteville Bulldog.
Well, one thing that Hank has kind of in common with Garrett did, and a little bit with Drake. I didn't have the opportunity to coach Drake, but they come from football families.
Yeah.
Hank's dad is a coach. He's a coach's kid, so he kind of has some of that. He understands the game, how to manage the game, and really the one thing that I think that we look for him to do more than anything is to manage the game. And we have a lot of talent around him.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we talked to. I talked to Garrett last year and Hank this year is, hey, it's you're like the point guard. It's your job to get those other guys involved, and you don't have to win it all by yourself, but manage the game. Understand the situations, and let those other guys go make the big plays. You just distribute the ball to them.
Yeah. Then you talked about those other skilled players around them. We've been able to talk to senior running back Caleb Johnson, senior wide receiver Katavion Taylor. Just talk about the leadership those two guys with playing 3 years, just a third year around the sun, and being able to have that experience on this football field and with this football team.
Well, I think all those guys you mentioned, and right now I think with the offensive side of the ball, a lot of the guys that we do have, one of the great characteristics is the unselfishness by all of them.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the natural tendency. If you're a really good football player, you want the ball every snap.
Yeah.
And those guys understand that whether it's Charles or Kenyon or Caleb or any of the guys we have, they understand that we have multiple guys that can score with the football. And we want to spread the ball around. We want all 5 skill guys to touch the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of offensively what I want to do. I don't want to have one guy with 90 catches and another guy with 30.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them all with 60.
Yes, sir.
So
yes, sir.
I think that's harder to defend. I think keeps guys playing hard, but it takes a group of unselfish young men to do that and understand the bigger picture and
Yes,
what we're
sir.
doing. So
Yes, sir.
not only are they good players, but I think they're good people,
Yes,
and
sir.
they understand the overall scheme and what we're trying to get done.
Now, I talked to the other players about, their experiences being here at Fayetteville as a sophomore class. They were able to win a championship and go 13-0. As a junior class, they, unluckily had a loss in the playoffs to Pulaski
Right.
Academy. What differences have you seen in this senior group as they come into their third year, offensively especially? What have you seen the difference in these guys compared to the last year?
Well, one thing that's really hard to do, it's really hard to repeat. It's really hard to go back to back in any sport. That's why it doesn't happen very, very often.
Yes, sir.
It's very hard to go back to back because you have that target on your chest, and it just the ball has to bounce your way. You have to get a couple calls, and it's tough to do. But I think this year, I think we have a very mature group, and I think they've worked really hard. They understand, like I said earlier, the bigger picture and what we're trying to get done. And to win a championship, it's not always the most talented team.
Yeah.
It takes talent, yes, but it also takes a special group of guys that are working together for one common purpose. And I think these guys have kind of bought in. Like I said, they've been unselfish. They've showed up for the the off-season
Yes,
stuff,
sir.
the summer stuff, and it's been a good camp so far. So we're excited about the game.
Yes, sir. Now, my background is I'm originally from Pine Bluff. I was able to move up here and go to high school at Fayetteville and become a Purple Dog. But most people don't understand that Southern football, down Southern Arkansas, it gets a little crazy. And I know you're a former scrapper.
Yeah.
And I've been down in Nashville plenty of times. Just kind of tell about the difference of football, or if there's similarities compared to up here in Northwest Arkansas and down in the South.
Well, I think football's football. I've had the opportunity to coach football at numerous different places in different states, and you roll 11 guys out there, and it's 11 on 11. I would say that maybe the one difference is, and I don't necessarily know that it's one town to another, but when you do get to small towns and there's not a whole lot else going on, I think that the town, they live and die for it.
Yeah.
They're going to show up because they're going to show up on a Friday night because it's, hey, you're going to be at the football game or you're going to be sitting at the house. There's nothing else going on, so there's nothing else to do. So you do get that to where, like up here, I mean, you can go to the movies. You can go out to eat somewhere. There's actually you can end up on Dixon Street and there's a whole bunch of stuff to do. So other than the football game that's going on. So that would be probably the number one difference.
And that, like, now that we talk, and a lot of people, knowing our background from being from Southern Arkansas and everything like that. And I know having to go through, Prescott and Warren and seeing those kind of teams all the time. Up here, you get Rogers and Benville, which, every year that we have them at home, it's almost one of those where we kind of get a little bit of a competitive edge. What things do you see with our schedule this year that can kind of give the Bulldogs that edge?
Well, I think one thing you got to do, especially in our conference, is you have to show up every week.
Yeah.
Because every school, the one thing I think that you don't see in some of the smaller classifications is that you see in the bigger classifications. The bigger classifications, every school is going to have a guy that can beat you.
Yeah.
Now they may not have a bunch of them, but they may have a receiver that is a D1 guy, or they may have they have some linemen that are big and physical. So every school, I think, has something that has a strength to where, when you're in smaller football, a lot of times half your schedule, you're going to be a whole lot more talented than those teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you're not going to have as much talent, and it's you can almost draw it up in the preseason. Hey, that's going to be a win. That's going to be a loss because those teams are just not as talented as someone, or someone's a lot more talented than them. And then it comes down to the 2 or 3 games to where, hey, these are our 3 close games. We need to try to win those.
Yeah.
I think it's the conference we play in, it's a tough conference. Obviously, we have a lot of teams that are talented, a lot of really good coaches, and you're going to have to show up every week and bring your A game, because you can get knocked off, because the other team does have someone that can catch it and go score, or they do have a running back and offensive line that can pound it. They have good guys on defense.
So as we wrap up our dog walk, what's your main objective or main kind of thing that you want to get out of your offense this year?
Well, I want them to be consistent and play to their potential. That's the one thing. I think through camp we've done a really good job of that. I think you look at the Greenwood benefit game the other day. I thought for the obviously there's things you can improve on, and we didn't score one time in the red zone, but I think we have a lot of really good players, and we have a mature 4 guys on the offensive line that are seniors that have played a lot of football, and we're going to be able to put a really good product out on the field. We just need to go execute and do what we know we're capable of.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, and that's going to conclude our Dogs Walk here. I want to thank Coach V, offensive coordinator / QB coach, and hey guys, let's get it tonight. We'll see y'all here at 6 o'clock.